And I assume that that's the aquatics manager?
That's Goldie. She has no official position at the hotel. That's a fish.
Tom and Jerry is a new HBO Max comedy movie about a fun, wacky world where boring, ordinary animals are instead portrayed as these exciting, exaggerated cartoons. It's very clear that this funny, lighthearted wackiness was the top priority that the filmmakers here were going for, and it definitely has fun stuff to offer. Whatever extinction-level alien invasion might be going on out in the real world right now, this is a movie designed to make you for a moment forget all that and instead just enjoy the sight of cartoon animals beating the living fur out of each other.
I see you again, I bash your head in.
Mike, get back here.
Saw you again.
But I'd say this mentality of extreme wackiness is also the film's biggest weakness, because truth is that this film is very dumb. Like, unless you're 5 years old, it's gonna be a bit of a struggle to actually stay invested in what you're seeing and not just lose all interest. And even though you can argue that SDFU Filmento it's a movie for kids, Pixar makes movies for kids that still carry more than enough universally enjoyable qualities that everyone can enjoy. Whereas here, everything truly universally great Tom and Jerry has going for it is kinda ruined by this overly dumb, wacky world. For example, the main hero of the movie is played by Chloe Moretz, who I've always viewed as extremely talented. For movies like Let Me Into Greta, every performance I've seen from her has been nothing less than great. If Chloe Moretz's career were stuck, I'd go all in.
And who's that? Oh, it's Sam!
But here, even her performance is forcefully reduced to making one dumb face.
For the wedding. Oh, at the wedding. Isn't that what you did?
As I started wondering what the main reasons behind this problem are, I was reminded of this film's 1988 counterpart, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Basically, the core gist with Roger Rabbit is the exact same. It's a story about a fun, wacky world where cartoon characters are real, living, exaggerated beings. And yet, whereas that movie became a universally praised immortal cinematic legend, Tom and Jerry is something you'll put on in the background as you're doing something else and then never think about again. And so, to get a better view of the dumbness problem present here, let's compare Tom and Jerry to Roger Rabbit to hopefully find out the main wacky world related differences between them. Here's how to avoid letting your fun, wacky movie become harmfully dumb.
What the fuck?
Firstly, Roger Rabbit effectively avoided becoming illogical nonsense by setting its dumb wacky world within the confines of clearly comprehensible rules that make that dumb wacky world feel real. Essentially, in this world, cartoon characters playing by cartoon rules exist and everybody knows that. But aside from that, for us, all other real-life consequential rules still apply. If a piano falls on your head, you're gonna have a bad time.
Just like a tune to drop a safe on a guy's head.
Whereas in Tom and Jerry, the rules of this wacky world are so consistently inconsistent that the whole thing quickly becomes idiotically nonsensical. At first, the movie establishes that in this alternate reality, all animals exist as these exaggerated cartoon versions of their real-life counterparts, a standard that everybody is aware of.
Thought I'd seen it all with a blind piano playing cat.
And this established standard is then used as the basis for the main story engine, where Jerry finds a home in a prestigious hotel and then Chloe Moretz has to get rid of him because, as per the rules of real life, mice and prestigious hotels don't really fit together.
If a picture of these mouse is tweeted up to Instabook Face or the TikTok, we will be ruined.
But the further we go, the more this established standard that the story engine is built on begins to fade away. Pretty quickly, we find out that the cartoon animals are actually less cartoon animals and more humanly sentient beings capable of proper communication, which humans seem to be aware of.
What is that?
The sign of a worthy competitor. Listen here, Mr. Mouse. Oh, Jerry.
And just like that, the main story engine of the movie no longer makes any sense. If Jerry isn't a mouse but more an openly accepted humanly sentient being, then why would we treat him as a mouse? Why would anybody view him as a danger to the hotel's reputation? Why do we need to catch him when apparently he's conscious enough for us to just talk to? These two separate rule sets just don't fit together. Like, it gets to a point where one moment the humans are making sure they get Jerry's pronouns right.
Him or her. It could be a female. I'm not gender biased.
And the next moment they're casually discussing the option of gassing him to death.
So we could hire an exterminator to have him tramp up and down this whole hotel, just filling it with his poison.
To be fair, I understand the choice to make the animals more consciously sentient because that's how you get to the classic Tom and Jerry comedy, and that's great. But when this is mashed together with standards of the real world, it just doesn't gel.
Can't you catch a mouse? Isn't that in your DNA?
And it would have been wiser to take the Toy Story approach where the animals act more sentient only when humans aren't around, in order for that initial exaggerated animal standard to still remain intact. Because if in this world humans are aware that animals are their sentient equals, then why would dogs be in a leash? Why would we be hunting a mouse just for being a mouse when everybody knows it's not a mouse? It doesn't make any logical sense.
One way this could have made sense in this world is, for example, if the humans hunt Jerry because they know he keeps stealing important items and needs to be dealt with. As in, they hunt him because he's a thief, not just because he's a mouse.
Is shaken to the core. The mouse ran right over his foot.
And it's not just the cartoon side either. The movie overall carries this very harmful mentality that because some elements deviate from real-life logic, then everything can. For example, the way Chloe Moretz gets a job at the hotel is because she meets this classy English applicant and then steals her resume to use as her own and gets hired on the spot. And although I've never hired anyone, I'm pretty sure that's not how that works. Even if you don't check any credentials or references, when a 20-year-old New Yorker shows up with a resume of a 30-year-old Brit, you'd expect some internal alarm bells to go off. I mean, even though she rips the original name off the resume, you can still see it in the contact info. Like, this makes no sense, just like most other things.
Can you ride a hamster?
Oh, yes. I mean, as long as you have enough of them, you can ride them silly.
Well, that's something to consider too. And if word gets out that we're refusing to hire a cat, Peter will be here before you can say discriminatory practices.
I lost my ring. The big one?
Where's your ring?
Which ring?
Your engagement ring?
Even if your nonsensically wacky movie world differs from real life, it still has to make sense within the confines of its own set of rules and standards as if it was real life. The existence of cartoon animals doesn't equal dumb humans. Identify clearly what your alternate rules and standards are and then stick to them, because otherwise your wacky world and your entire movie will come off as just illogical nonsense. And now let's move on to the next. Oh my god, not again. I'm so sorry guys. This isn't me, it's Warner Brothers. They put this movie only on HBO Max, which isn't available here in Krakozia because for some reason they hate foreigners and don't want us to see any other big upcoming movies. And so of course logically that also means they can now control this YouTube video as well. Man, if only there was some way I could gain access to HBO Max outside the US to see all these movies and continue this video. Oh, right, there is this one blue button that makes that possible. And it's called Surfshark, the super wacky VPN capable of fighting Warner Brothers' anti-foreign geo-restrictions. They're sponsoring this video with an illogically generous 83% off discount with 3 extra months for free by using code FILM. So if you still haven't been sold on a VPN, this is how to protect your anonymity online and gain access to all streaming services as well as all the geographically divided content within those streaming services. So check the link below, get Surfshark's magic blue button for yourself, help out the channel. Thank you. And now we can finally move on from this Warner Brothers disruption. Secondly, even though Roger Rabbit was a goofy, fun kids movie, it still dealt with heavy enough goals and topics and motivations that we could find worthwhile and partake in. Not only are we trying to solve a murder case deciding our main cartoon hero's fate, it all gradually grows into deciding the ultimate fate of all of Toonkind itself. It's a goofy movie, but it still carries more than enough weight to feel important.
Remember how we always thought there wasn't a way to kill a Toon? Well, Doom found a way.
An execute him.
And to give Tom and Jerry credit, what I expected to be just a big goofy chaotic game of cat and mouse initially appeared as a step above, when both our cartoon heroes are given personalized goals that we can relate to and care about. Jerry needs to find a home with no budget, whereas Tom aspires to be a proper big-time musician. And the main story engine-driven conflict is then born from these two strong personal goals clashing together in style of a certain Marvel Civil War movie.
You killed my
piano.
So essentially, the reason we can care here is because in their current established form, these two personal goals cannot coexist. In order for Tom to pursue his music career, which we want him to do, he has to get his hands on Jerry. Whereas in order for Jerry to have a home, which we want him to do, he has to steer clear of Tom. In other words, we have a conflicted relationship with real meaningful things on the line that we can find worth our time and attention. That is, until it then quickly turns out that all of that is just fairy dust and the whole relationship evolves into a big, goofy, chaotic game of cat and mouse.
You are in a dumpster, and Jerry is inside safe and warm. Look at him, seeing what he can steal next. Now who's the cat and who's the mouse?
Turns out that instead of trying to catch Jerry to pursue his personal music career goal, Tom now forgets his music aspirations altogether and instead adopts Jerry's personal goal of moving into the hotel, which means that suddenly all meaning behind this relationship is gone. If Tom doesn't actually need to catch Jerry to pursue his music career, why do we care whether he catches him or not? If Jerry doesn't actually need to avoid Tom to have a home in the hotel, why do we care whether he avoids him or not? The answer is we don't care, and the entire thing is just an excuse to have more ha ha ha, look at this funny cat trying to catch that funny mouse.
To be fair, after 30 minutes the movie does make Tom think he could get a piano as a reward for catching Jerry, but it still isn't anything real or consistently present, and most importantly, whereas in Roger Rabbit there is only one Toontown to save or destroy, here in this reality Tom could as easily go find another job for piano money.
Word gets out that we're refusing to hire a cat? Peter will be here before you can say discriminatory practices.
And it would have been so simple to just maintain that initial relationship. For example, instead of stealing some random wedding ring later on, maybe Jerry steals something from Tom's keyboard that makes his home function, something that also makes the keyboard function, something that becomes a central MacGuffin anchoring the relationship in importance. Tom wouldn't become a hotel staff mouse hunter just because Chloe Moretz tells him to, but because he needs to get his missing piece back to have a music career. Jerry, on the other hand, wouldn't be just an annoying a-hole, but instead genuinely needs that piece to have a real home. Or if you want Jerry to be less douchey, maybe the MacGuffin is something they find at the same time. Point is, they both needed to pursue their personal goals, but only one can have it, which makes getting it feel like a real meaningful thing. Even if your movie is goofy and fun, you still need something for the audience to find worthwhile. This film does get better at the end when Tom and Jerry have to join forces to save the wedding that they ruined, but before that it's all just a goofy, superficial game of cat and mouse. And as goofy as it by itself may be, in feature-length form it will inevitably grow tiringly pointless. Thirdly, Roger Rabbit also anchored this dumb, wacky world in real emotion by connecting our human hero Eddie Valiant to it.
Toons.
Basically, Eddie's brother was killed by a Toon, which has given him this blind, toxic hatred of all Toons, meaning there's this emotional scar in him that gets worse as he's forced to go on his journey with Roger Rabbit.
Get out of that chair! That's my brother's chair.
And the whole point of the journey is that by bonding with Roger Rabbit, Eddie grows to see the fun side of Toons once again, in the process allowing him to heal that scar left behind by his brother's death, which is where the emotion of the movie comes from. With Chloe Moretz in Tom and Jerry, the main gist is that she has this unhealthy ambition to be successful, stemming from the fact that everyone else's success is hammered in your face through social media.
I mean, every morning I wake up and I look at my phone and my news feed is filled with people who are our age. Now they're succeeding at what they're doing.
But aside from that, there's really nothing about Chloe Moretz to emotionally connect her to this dumb, wacky world of cartoon animals, nothing to connect her to Tom and Jerry. Initially, there are hints of a pre-existing connection. She knows good animal park locations.
Behind this falafel place on 17th, it's not technically a dog park, but they let their dogs off leash and they kind of look out for each other.
And she's really good with animals overall.
She scratches people's faces off.
Oh, well, she can smell a bona fide animal lover.
All of which seems to indicate that maybe she used to have some kind of a cartoon pet herself. Maybe there's something about her past that makes her relationship with Tom and Jerry more than initially appears on the surface. But of course, actually no. There's nothing about her having prior pets, and she views Tom and Jerry as just a cat and mouse and nothing more.
It's the shot that I've been waiting for, and I can't screw it up. So you two, you gotta go. We gotta go.
And the issue with this is that it leaves this movie world completely emotionally hollow. It's just a bunch of dumb, wacky cartoon animals, and that's it. Which is probably why Chloe Moretz's performance, for example, is reduced to just repeating the same idiotic expression. Because there's nothing else for her to do.
Just have to figure out how to let him go without triggering an equal employment issue.
Oh.
I should probably look into severance packages.
Right.
Maybe a month of tuna.
Because he's a cat.
And once again, it would have been so simple to just follow the hints and create a proper emotional connection between Chloe Moretz and this world of cartoon animals. Like maybe she used to have a cartoon pet that she loved more than anything else. A pet that her blind ambition somehow accidentally made her lose, leaving her this highly emotional scar when it comes to cartoon animals. And now that she crosses paths with Tom and Jerry, that scar begins to tear open. Maybe she initially doesn't like Tom and Jerry because deep down she's scared to form new feelings for animals after what happened last time. Maybe as she gradually bonds with Tom and Jerry, she now gets placed in the exact same position of having to choose between animals she cares about and her own success. Maybe after her toxic blind ambition gets Tom and Jerry caught by animal control, she finally has a full change of heart and leaves her ambitious job just like that in order to go save them, in a way that she failed with her own pet. In other words, this movie wouldn't be just Tom and Jerry running around a hotel, but instead about Tom and Jerry giving this emotionally scarred girl a second chance to fix her past mistake and finally move on with her life. Because no matter how wacky or funny your movie world is, if you don't anchor that world in real emotion, it's gonna carry as little of a lasting impact as any random haha tiki-tok dance video. If your movie is only dumb fun, then the only thing to remember it as compared to all the other fun is as dumb.